Cool. Thanks for being on the show first and foremost. And I'm with Invicta today. You guys formed in 2017 in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. And my buddy put a little information. He says Kitchener was called Berlin until World War One. Do you guys know that?
Yep. Yeah, it's got some German heritage there.
Oh yeah,
that makes sense. Cool. So I guess let's start from there. You guys started in the scene out there. What was it like? What was it like growing up? How did you kind of get into the metal scene in your area?
Who wants to go first? All right. Well, so we were all kind of playing in bands. Like my very first band, I played a show with Steve's band, and then I joined another band, and then I was playing shows with Jonah and Reef's band. They played in a band together. And then I was like, okay, I kind of want to start my own thing. And then I was talking to Reef, and he wanted to drum for it. And Reef was like, okay, Jonah wants to play guitar for us. I was like, sweet. And then I asked Steve to play bass, and here we are. Yeah.
And there you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty easy.
We're all in different kind of bands and stuff, and then.
Yeah, and I'm from Guelph, which is about a half hour away from Kitchener, and it's just the scene's kind of just interconnected because a lot of the band there's just I guess a bunch of metal bands around here coming up, and so or at least there was like 5-6 years ago when we were all kind of meeting each other and stuff like that, and it just worked out that we were playing shows. We just liked each other's music, and we started playing together, and we started having shows together, and it was pretty cool. It just worked out pretty easily, honestly.
What were some of those first venues that I guess some of your old bands are playing in? Kind of explain it to us, that area. Like what places were you kind of your first stomping grounds as far as playing shows out there?
Well, I mean, like they're just like there was a pretty heavy battle of the band scene going on. Yeah. So whatever that paints a picture of, but like actual venue names, like. Well, there was Schwaben Club. It's a good German club we played at. Yeah. There was District in Guelph that we played at all the time.
Yeah, and there's a Thai restaurant in Guelph too, Red Papaya, where it has shows every once in a while. There's actually going to be, I think there's going to be another like Guelph Death Fest or something like that happening there shortly. But that's a place. Yeah, District. There was right below District Van Gogh's, which is now a restaurant. So,
there was Boathouse in Kitchener, right in downtown Kitchener, and there's like a bunch of like little bars or whatever, and like there used to be like this bar Chainsaw that like bands would play at, and the main venue that the bands try to play at here is Maxwell's. It's like the most professional venue made for shows, so it's not just a pub. There was Burntoff in Cambridge and O'Brien's Bar in Cambridge. They're just like little shitty pubs and bars,
Did we mention the what was it called, the Boathouse too?
Yeah, Boathouse in Kitchener. Yeah,
mention that. Yeah.
Played 1,000 shows there.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so it's just like local bands playing like venues that shouldn't be venues for the most part, Yeah.
Why do you say that? Just in general, just their size?
Yeah, these places are not meant to have shows and stuff, right? There's like little shitty bars, and there's like I don't know, there's something wholesome about it.
Yeah. It'd be like a restaurant with no stage, so they just move tables from there. Like that's your stage.
And they're like, there's Invicta tonight, and they're like, there's people still eating. They're like, well, shit.
Literally.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty funny. It's good. You gotta practice somewhere.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. So I guess what was your first time? I guess either in your older bands or in Invicta, what was your first time kind of getting out of that area, or especially down to the States?
Well, we haven't been to the States yet because getting visas is an absolute bitch. It's a nightmare. So
how so?
It's just like super expensive. The Department of Homeland Security is charges Canadians a lot of money. Charges everyone a lot of money. Just to look
And
at
some
the
of the
paperwork.
hoops you got to jump through and stuff like that. Just all the rigmarole with like paperwork and things. Being an hour away from Toronto and the office from Toronto, Kyle had to go to Toronto and like do a bunch of stuff for us, which was awesome, and just was the man in getting all of it done. I know I would be able to do any of the paperwork and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are stoked to go to the States because like it's always great, you know, venturing out because you know normally when we like go play a show kind of far away, it's like Montreal or Ottawa, which is I don't know. This band hasn't played Ottawa, right? I don't think Invicta's played Ottawa or other
We were
bands.
supposed to, I think, but then it fell through.
But like you know, the most we've done really is go to Vancouver and back, like do a Canadian run, drive all the way across. But yeah, like usually when we do like out of town shows, it's like London, which we just played like last week, is about an hour away, or like Toronto or Hamilton, they're all about an hour away from us. And then like there's not too many places to play that are like between there, like that level and like Montreal. Like there's a few little cities that you can play for sure, but
Yeah, it's just not kind of worth it. It's too big, and it's too big.
Yeah. It's a
Places.
big country, not a lot of people.
yeah, that's the thing is like you know there's more people in the state of California alone than the entire country.
Yeah.
So
Well, I want to get into this tour, obviously, that you're doing with Heathen, but I kind of want to just like kind of origins of the band. And so, Kyle, would you say that you do like a majority of the writing for the band? What's the process like for you
yeah,
guys?
for sure.
Riff first, lyrics. What's your thing?
So basically, whenever I write a song, like I'll come up with some riffs and whatever, and then based on like the mood of the riff or the vibe of the riff, I'm like, okay, I want the song to be about this, right? So like on Halls of Extinction, I had a couple riffs, and I'm like, I'm gonna write the song about Darth Maul, you know, and it's like, and that's just kind of how I work. So then I kind of just try to fit a vibe of something. I don't know. But yeah, usually I just write this like I'll write most of the song, like everything, and then send it to the guys like tabs and like teach the guys how to play it, and then we'll kind of play it around a little bit, and then what we did a lot for the new record, because it was like COVID and we were all jobless for a few months. It was awesome because like we had time to get together and like work on songs. So like I would write, you know, 95% of the song, and they're like, all right, let's jam it out, and then you know, so that by the time we went to record it, we all kind of knew, you know, the parts and like edit it like arrangement and notes and stuff so that like it, you know, make the song as good as possible.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I could for sure just be like, okay, here's the song, learn it and play it, whatever. But you know, I want like these guys are great musicians, so I want a little bit of their input and stuff. You know, I don't want to be that guy to be total dictator.
For sure. And things were
Yeah,
like
I write most of it for sure.
Yeah, big time. And things were like we put in a little input here and there, and like they'd slightly change, and like especially when we were recording, if we heard it and we'd be like, oh, you know, it sounded cool while we were playing it, but you know, let's just change this note here or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like, you know, add a part here, take away a part, move a part, you know,
Yeah.
just kind of arrange a song. And so we're all self DIY, right? So like we don't have producers and stuff, so we have to be our own, which is pretty common these days because
Yeah, most musicians can use a DAW nowadays.
And so yeah, I don't know.
That's it. That's the
Just
band.
I just try to write cool songs and send to these guys. I'm like, all right, do you think this is cool? And
So
then
you
work
released
on the song that's sick.
So you released Forces of Annihilation. That was in July 2022. So that was your COVID album, basically.
Yeah, it was definitely like Triumph and Torment is the COVID album. Like it was, we finished recording it in like 2021, and then because of like basically because of like the lockdowns that were still happening and like whatever else, we're like, okay, we want to like release the album. We can start kind of playing shows. and like, do something instead of just having the album out and not being able to promote it or whatever other than, Instagram and Facebook. But
Yeah.
but yeah, that was for sure the COVID album. I literally remember like the day when everyone was bulk buying toilet paper. Remember those days?
I do.
Being like, I was
Ridiculous.
sitting at my job at the time because they were like all talking about layoffs, and it was kind of like this like thing where like, oh, are we gonna get laid off? Oh, like what's gonna happen? And I was like, oh, sick, we're gonna get laid off, and we're gonna go head first into this record. Like I'm gonna spend every waking moment working on this thing.
Yeah. It gave you something to do. Also.
Oh, absolutely, and it was like we were
Big
getting
time.
paid. We were getting paid by the government to sit at home and play guitar.
Yeah.
I was getting paid more money to do that than I was getting paid at my job. So I was like, sweet.
Yeah. You're more of a professional then. Yeah. Professional
There you
guitar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess so then people were obviously fucking hungry to see some music afterwards. So is that was kind of like when you did start playing out, people were really getting into it, and how was that like reaction to the album, or I guess just playing out after COVID? Like, what you kind of notice differently?
Well, Invicta's only played 2 shows since we played in Hamilton in the spring of last year, and then we just played in London, and the shows were good. Great crowds.
Yeah, I'd say the only thing different was like good, like people were just raring to get out there. They were excited to,
Yeah,
see
for sure.
some bands, and like they were rowdy. It was cool.
Yeah, like people really wanted to get back out to shows and stuff. And then I was out touring for a few months, in like Europe and stuff, in another band, and yeah, like across the world, it was just kind of like the same vibe of like people were just grateful to be out and to be able to attend shows and buy merch and see bands and stuff. It was almost like it got taken away from people and they didn't realize how much they would miss it. So yeah, it was definitely cool, and everyone was like, it was super wholesome for sure.
Yeah. So how did you line up now, kind of going into what you guys are about to do? How did you line up the tour with Heathen? Because I got to interview them back in the day.
Yeah, so that's the band I've been touring with. I fill in for Lee Altus.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
So I'm gonna be doing double sets for those first 5 shows. So yeah, I've been playing for Heathen since June 1st was my first show. And then yeah, so we have this tour coming up, and then the Overkill X-Hoarder tour in April in Europe. So basically, we wound up opening up these first few shows because the booking agent is a buddy of ours, who I got in contact with Cragen, and I was like, get us on as many shows as we can because we have the album coming on.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. Because that's pretty much how the whole industry works. Like it's like someone, and then they're
the industry actually works by all that happened is if you look at our Sacred Scourge music video, where we're doing a performance video on the stage or whatever, Kyle's wearing a Heathen shirt, and then he just messaged the link to Craig and the guys in Heathen being like, hey, check this out. And then all of a sudden they're friends, and that was it.
And then next thing you know, I'm playing in the band. It's a weird world sometimes,
Really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just like it's all a who you know kind of thing.
You got in with the band shirt.
Yeah, yeah. I literally just messaged the video to him, be like, hey man, I'm wearing a Heathen shirt if you want to check out my song. And it was just like completely, shot in the dark, and then he checked it out and he liked it. And then we were kind of kept in contact. And so Cragen like is helping us like put out Triumph and Torment on his little label. And he's doing a lot of stuff, and he's kind of managing us or whatever. And that's how we got this. Is Craig? Someone had messaged Craig.
That is hilarious. I love that. It makes sense. I mean, like that's the kind of like scene that everybody's in. But that is one of the funnier ways I've heard about like kind of landing on a tour.
Yeah, well, how I got on the tour, I literally they posted the dates for the Europe tour with Toxic, and I literally just messaged him randomly like, "Hey man, if you need like a merch guy or anything, like I just want to get out on the road. Like I don't care, I'll do whatever." And his only response was, "What if I asked you to play guitar?" So then I was like, "Well, yeah." So I auditioned. There's a few people that auditioned. I had auditioned, but yeah, it was that's how I got. I just was another shot in the dark of like being like, "Yo, if you need a crew member, like I just want to do that."
Oh shit, that's right. How was playing double sets in Europe? Like,
I didn't do double sets in Europe,
oh,
but we did for a lot of shows. Do like the hour and a half sets and stuff, which is fun. I could play all day.
yeah,
Fun,
yeah, it's no problem for you. When what were you guys? I mean, way back in the day, what were sort of the first bands you were listening to when you were starting to learn guitar? Was it just kind of like the classic rock shit, or were you like starting off with like Judas Priest and stuff like that?
We all play guitar. Steve, our bass player, is actually like an incredible guitar player as well. So I'm sure that all three of us have like completely different answers. But for me personally, like getting into guitar was Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, and Children of Bodom. Those were like the three main influences for me for starting guitar. And then I got into Slayer and Buckethead and Pantera, and then whatever. And then it slowly went to like more heavier music, and then a mix of everything. So for starting off for me, it was definitely just like Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden were the two biggest ones for sure.
Yeah.
For me, it was basically like I liked a lot of different types of music, but for guitar wise, like what got me into playing was like Rush and like Pink Floyd and Sabbath too and stuff like that. I was playing Metallica, a lot of stuff like that when I was younger, just trying to like play that stuff. That's what got me into like playing. And so, yeah.
It's a little different, yeah. Like, yeah. For you, what started you off in music? Yeah, that's what we got for that. All right. And so for this next album that's coming out, what were the concepts that you guys are kind of playing around with, I guess, lyrically, or just stuff that you were trying out in the studio? What was
well, basically every song is about like comic book stuff. Because like I was like reading this stuff and like whatever, and I was like, this would be like a sick song concept. So what I did is like I took a couple stories just for fun at home, and I was like, I want to try to like almost like write a soundtrack that would go along with, like, if you read the story, this is how the song would go. So songs like Apprentice of Death and Triumph and Torment were the first two that I wrote, that were kind of like that concept of like trying to like write a soundtrack to this comic book story that I really like. And then
what were the comic books for those?
So the Triumph and Torment is Triumph and Torment by Roger Stern. It's a 1980s graphic novel about Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange. You don't have to get into it.
I've never even heard of that. So
yeah. And then Apprentice of Death is a Fantastic Four one about the Marquis of Death, basically. It's called the Master of Doom. And yeah, there were just two cool, like Triumph and Torment is probably my favorite of all time. But like they're just two cool stories that I'm like, I want to write songs about this. And then it kind of just like I wrote those two songs pretty quick and whatever, and I'm like, you know what? I can write a song about this guy, I can write a song about this story, I can do this, and then I kind of just spiraled. And then I'm like, next thing you know, we have a whole like album about comic book stuff.
It's like a cool limitation rather than being like sitting down and being like, what the fuck am I gonna write about? That's
kind of like my thing. Like I have no shortage of like things that I want to write about. That's for sure. It's just like lots of ideas and concepts. It's just
that's good. I've sitting down for lyrics for me, man. That's crazy. Like I've always like admired that about you, because like for me, it's when I try to write lyrics for my other stuff, it's just like blanks. Just
Oh, dude, I hate writing lyrics sometimes, man. It's just like how many like lyrics were we like writing as we were recording? Like it's just
yeah, fair, yeah.
it's just like sometimes it happens or it doesn't happen. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Nope,
So
yeah.
So you guys must have gone to the studio, I guess, mostly like, would you say like 90% done with the music, or are you like kind of half and half, or like fully like the music is done and you're ready to just record it? What do you
Well,
think?
Kyle writes a lot of it at his place, and like we all like have a studio that we kind of share, and we just pay for it each, and we kind of are able to go and practice there and work on the songs type thing. Like he'll bring them to us, and then we kind of might work on them, or just like kind of go over them and try and nail them live type thing, or just like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
So
like when we go to record, basically we actually recorded the whole album and almost everything's done in our jam hall. Jonah records everything and mixes it all.
oh shit.
Yeah,
He's the wizard.
the maestro.
And so basically, because we had COVID, we had all these songs for the majority pretty locked in to where like we could play the album front to back, and then we just tried to record it as we played it. We demoed we made
like we usually record each song at least like 4 times.
Yeah, we record like the songs as much as possible and like kind of demo them out, like listen back and be like, is this sick or is it not sick? And you kind of just work on the songs, and then we're like, okay, we're ready. We should record, and we pretty much have the majority of it down. Normally, for me personally, the things that aren't 100% going into the studio for this record was just some lyrics and some guitar solos. Because some guitar solos, I was like, okay, I'm gonna just improvise.
Yeah.
Because I like sometimes it's just like for me, it's like an old school thing that I like about a lot of like old school guys is that they just like went in and improvised something, and it's like, what? That's sick. So there's a couple spots where I'm like, okay, I want to just go and improvise something, and then other things it's like, okay, sit down and write a part. So yeah, for me, it's just the solos and the lyrics are like the bulk of the song. Everyone's kind of parts are kind of set in stone for like when we went to track, for sure.
Yeah. That's rad. So I mean, you basically have an in-house recording engineer.
Oh yeah, like literally.
Seriously, yeah.
And like Steve also records some stuff and works on some stuff. So
here and there.
I demo stuff at home. Like I got my own like DAW and stuff, and I make demos and whatever. And so like because of thanks to technology, it just makes things actually like faster and easier for bands to do their own thing. And luckily, in our case, it doesn't sound like shit.
That's all we can ask,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So would you guys do more like track by track, or when you actually get to the recording process, or is it not track by track, but like live setting, or do you do drums and bass first? Is that sort of process?
Yeah,
Or-
we'll do the drums and bass stuff. Yeah.
Well, for this upcoming record, we actually recorded both. So for the actual one that's on the album, like it's all multi-tracked, right? So we have all the scratch tracks and the click tracks, and then track the drums, or we'll already have like good versions of guitar ready, and then track the drums over, and then track the bass, and then track the vocals, like all separated, and just add whatever layers we want to make sure it's beefy or like sounds cool with an extra harmony here or there, like just play around. And then we recorded an entire live off the floor version with video. So we have like a jam hall style, like live full album with video. And then we have the actual record that's for the to go on streaming and CDs and stuff. So
yeah, rad. Is that video one out yet?
Not yet, because we were gonna wait till we had the rest of the record out and then kind of put out extra stuff with it. So.
Yeah, that's dope. So that was at your the place where you guys rehearse and stuff?
Yeah, so everything's just still set up mic, so that way show, like it can always multi-track anything we do. So
Okay, yeah. What are you using? I guess recording wise, you guys do mostly like DAWs, like Universal Audio shit, or like
Reaper, baby.
Reaper? Hell yeah.
Reaper,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, we're into the Reaper.
Yeah, Reaper's great.
Oh yeah.
I think it's a really underutilized tool. I think for anybody out there listening, it's free, right? It's still free.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I paid the thing so I don't have to
Even if
see
you
the
want to
screen.
pay $60, like whatever.
Yeah.
But that's
But, yeah, Reaper's great.
and then as far as like hardware and stuff like that, you guys just mix everything within Reaper, or is it do you guys have some hardware that you also use other than your pedals and all that shit?
Well, for guitars, I was putting multiple mics out on the cabs and then summing the channels on this Behringer mixer so I could like crush the preamps on that, blend the mics, and then send like one mic signal to the computer. And then for vocals, I just have like a tube compressor and like a preamp tube compressor. So I run it through that to have some compression on the way in, and then other than that, it's basically just straight mic freeze, like nothing really getting processed till it gets in pretty as raw as possible. Like
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, like especially like crushing it through, I guess the summing up basically, into a mixer before going in. That's pretty the rad way of doing it. And your stuff sounds great. I mean, don't take this in a weird way, but sometimes when like the band records their own shit, it doesn't necessarily sound as good as it possibly could. But I'm surprised you guys didn't go to a big, fancy, expensive studio. I guess
No, we don't need to.
Yeah, it shows the signs of the times. Yeah.
Yeah, right, Jonah. It's perfect. It's awesome having Jonah. He's got the experience, and we can just play the music, and he records it, and then there's an album. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's the way to do it too, is because you have basically unlimited time and not having to go to the studio.
yeah,
It is nice coming into the studio as well,
part.
because you can separate yourself a little bit, have somebody else just deal with all that shit. But if you guys genuinely enjoy doing it and all agree what Jonah's doing, then yeah, my compliment. Yeah.
Like whenever we record anything, Jonah and I just kind of sit there for like hours on end, just absolutely driving each other insane.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then
That's
like
true.
when the tracking and whatever is done, he kind of just will mix it, do his thing, and then send it over to us, and then we'll kind of just be like, all right, here's our mixing notes.
Yeah.
And then kind of that way, just but yeah, it turned out, this new album turned out absolutely fantastic. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy with it for sure.
All right, Jonah, who do you think has the most annoying mixing notes?
I would probably just say Kyle because he's most involved with it. But I guess that's a good question for Jonah.
I probably have the most notes. Steven Reaper, usually the guys that go, yeah, sweet, okay, I'm in.
yeah.
They're like, cool. Yeah, dope.
So it's me that goes, this one little harmony should actually be up a little bit or whatever. But
I'd say there's not that many notes because
no,
do it like pretty much perfect.
Yeah, like because like because we've been playing these songs together for for like a year or whatever before we recorded them. We kind of all knew what we wanted it to sound like.
It's not gonna come out like it's not gonna come out like unexpectedly weird,
Yeah, like we wanted it to sound as good, like just tracking wise before the mix, so that it can't sound worse in the mix, So
it's all about the source sound. You gotta
all the tracks then.
You gotta sound good from the get go. You can't fix it later,
Yeah, there wasn't too much fixing in post.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like we set out the guitar tones and the bass tones and this and that, and it's just like they have notes of how they sound like before we actually get to tracking. Like once it's like all being recorded, it's like you can like tweak a little after, obviously, but like basically stays how it was when we recorded it. So
yeah. So I just interviewed the Obsessed. I'm gonna see them on Sunday, and I asked them. This is a fun thing to ask them. Their whole guitar rigs. So I kind of like to hear even a short summed up version of like kind of what everybody's playing with, what sort of amps, pedals, guitars, why you choose them. So let's go down the line.
For our rigs, we just use, it's like in our jam hall, we just have full stacks. I've got a 5150 2, and then just with, yeah, 2 4x8 or whatever. No, wait, or sorry, 4x12. Yeah, just like full stack with Verizon overdrive and like a noise suppressor and a delay pedal for the effects loop, and that's it.
Wow, it's pretty light.
For me, I play a Marshall JVM full stack, and then I got an Aris Effects Super Saiyan overdrive pedal, tuner, noise suppressor, and then in the effects loop I run a chorus and a delay. But for the Heathen tour, they had me get a Kemper, so I'm gonna start. I got my Invicta settings on a Kemper now, and my tones and whatever. So for these first 5 shows, this is gonna be the first time I use the Kemper for Invicta to see how that works out. I used to not be a Kemper guy, or like I was always like an elitist, like, but he only real tube heads, whatever. And then I got the Kemper, and I'm like, okay, you know what, this thing is actually pretty cool.
What is it exactly again? I have an idea in my head, but like
it's just like an amp profiler.
Yeah,
it's just an amp profiler that like you can take different amp heads and different settings and effects and whatever, and kind of just do whatever. It's just a supercomputer.
Hold that thing up.
And then I'm usually running. I just bought a precision bass like 2 years ago, and I've just been playing that like exclusively for bass. And then I used to have I used to run through my dad's old trainer amp from the 60s, but I stopped using that because I want to kind of keep it like in my own studio type thing. I don't want to take that out anymore, so I'm running through a Fender Rumble, just the head, and then I put that out to a big like fridge stack. I modded the amp so I could just like put it to another cabinet, and then I just run through like a tube screamer and sometimes a clon or like some other type of boost for like if I have to play like a solo part in any of the songs, like where it's just bass, I'll just turn like a little boost on. But other than that, it's pretty simple. Just try and boost the low end with when I turn the tube screamer on, because it gets a little flat.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. So I gotta look up Kempers more because I've seen them out in the wild. I mean, I'm a drummer. I know what you guys are talking about, obviously, but I was always wondering what those were because they're a little bit like lit up and you can recall settings on them and
they're cool, man.
A rocket ship.
It's the future.
It's a ridiculous piece of equipment, but it's cool because like when I did the Heathen stuff, when they told me to get the Kemper, he's like, okay, whatever, I'll give you the USB and here's all the tones. I'm like, what do you like? What? What? So then, I put the USB in the thing, and I have all the Heathen tones from the Empire of the Blind record that Craig used to record the record. So like live, like the tones are like the album tones.
Yeah.
For the cleans, the rhythms, the solos, and everything. And then I also have like all of, because Craig played in Exodus for a while, so I have all of the Exodus tones. I have all the Metallica tones, the Testament tones for when they had to back up Eric Peterson's Kemper on the Craigens, and he just kept the tones to have them. So I got Eric Peterson's tones. I got like all these tones on this thing, and I'm like, what the heck? And then you can get the rig manager on the computer, which like you plug your Kemper in the computer, and then there's like 20,000 different profiles that people just upload. There's people just upload, what they created on the Kemper, and there's like 20,000 just amps and profiles and stuff, plus the effects and cab simulators and like all this. Like it's too much. Like when I first got the thing, I was like super overwhelmed because I'm like a caveman. I'm like, I've been using the same head for like ever, and I'm like, what? Like there's all this computer stuff. Like I read like when we started like working on like this new record a few years ago is when I started like demoing songs. Everything else was just like written down tabs and Guitar Pro. So like I'm like super slow when it comes to that kind of thing. So yeah, the temper was definitely a huge kind of mind shock for me, but I'm excited to try it out with these songs and see how it works out. Hopefully I won't have to be like, oh, I can't do it, and then but it'll be fun.
It's so cool. And at least you have the option of using it now.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I do love the thing. It's actually sick and it's super convenient. All the different things you can do, and like what I like is like you can like program like the harmony stuff, like the harmonizer pedals, and whatever. So for me, it's just like it's just fun to play with. You're not like limited. It's
I guess moving on from the gear stuff. What sort of bands have you guys has been on your radar? Some newer stuff that people should check out, or bands that you've seen around, or something that just in general people are not seeing, like the metal scene that you wish more people knew about.
Yeah, so like we're always like trying to share like our friends and stuff. That like we love
Raider.
like the Raider guys.
Space Pope.
Raider has their new album coming out April 7th.
We have some friends in a doom band called Space Pope, and they're pretty cool.
Space Pope is good. Guitarist from Calgary is sick. APOC. Let me see. There's a band from the States called Crusaders that's sick. Like not a lot of people know about.
More like post band that I've been listening to called Trauma Ray. They're really cool. I think more people need to listen to them. They're really cool. It's more like post hardcore, but it's sick.
Yeah, there's a bunch. I'm probably missing like a bunch of bands, but and they're gonna be mad. Oh, you didn't say whatever's off the top of your head. Yeah, it's but yeah, like we got a bunch of friends like all over the place. There's a band called Hyperia from Vancouver. They're great. Yeah, I played with a bunch. There's a band called Livewire from Australia. That's probably like one of the sickest bands I've ever played with ever.
Yeah, I've heard them.
Like, they just got like one record. It's like a speed metal band, and they're so sick. There's a bunch of bands that are just like guys like us that are just trying to make it in this in this big band world.
When I asked the Obsessed the same question, they were insanely stumped. They were like, they mentioned Leonard Skinner, which was hilarious, and I'm like, yeah, I think that band's gonna be pretty big. But which was funny, even though they mentioned Leonard Skinner. But yeah, no, I think it's always good to just like the big reason I do the podcast is just I just want to like give people a platform to say these like smaller groups that are worth checking out and coming up. Because
for sure, because like there's so many bands out there that like no one knows that are like are better than the bands that like everyone knows. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I remember like so there's this band from Toronto. I'm pretty sure I don't know who the guy is. I've been trying to find out who the guy is, but like it's like a one man band project kind of thing called Autonoesis.
I was thinking of it. I was gonna say.
And like it's just like the music is so sick, and I'm like I just want to like know who the guy is and like pick his brain about like it's like I can hear in his music that he has a lot of the similar influences to me. So I just didn't want to talk about music and nerd out and whatever. But like there's so many great bands that no one knows of. Because there's just so many bands.
Yeah. There's so many options out there. I mean, just like a camper.
Yeah.
20,000 new bands.
Sometimes. It's overwhelming, and then you're like, you know what? Instead of listening to this new band, I'm gonna listen to Leonard Skinner.
Yeah, exactly.
You get overwhelmed and you just go back to Iron Maiden or whatever. Yeah.
Always go back to Iron Maiden.
And don't get me wrong, like I love that stuff, and I love listening to Metallica. Like I love all that stuff, but it's just there's a lot more out there too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it'd be cool. I mean, in general, I think I'm trying to get something going where I'm like I can compile, because I've asked a lot of bands to compile like all this list of bands that people have mentioned into like some sort of like playlist or something like that. Kind of
Yeah.
get, I think that'd be fun to do. But yeah, it's good. You guys always shout out your friends. I think is just the way to keep it going, because you only know your realm. You can only get to so much. So
For
it's
sure. Like I think you gotta like I'm a big fan of like genuine support. So like I try to support things that like I genuinely like, and like if I have if I have a buddy and he's like, oh, check this song I wrote or whatever. For me, if I do something and you don't like it, I would want you to tell me. So like, okay, so like why don't you like it? And then like have a discussion about it so I can make it better.
Yeah.
And whatever. So like with me and some of my friends, we'll like send each other riffs and be like, oh, you know what, maybe do this instead and whatever, kind of work each other up, and not just go, oh yeah, it's good just because you're my friend.
Yeah.
So I try to be like that and like objective with everything I support. Um, so it's just like, yeah, I don't know, I'm just like sick stuff, and I like having like so many friends around, and so like Steve has like his own bands as well, Unbounded and Scorn, which are both great bands as well.
Thanks.
And it's just like there's in this area alone, there's so many uh talented people, and it's honestly it's great. Like seeing
It'd be a
everyone
shame.
seeing everyone do well, and seeing everyone do make great music, and like have a good time, and like support each other, and like not have like some weird competition and be like, oh, it's just like
Yeah, it'd
fuck
be a
you
shame to
guys,
be like
fuck
that.
you. Nah,
It'd be stupid.
everyone in our circle is like super supportive, and like we just want the best for each other, because we all have the same goal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's no point in like you said, doing a competition, because then it holds everybody back. Working off each other and like working together is just the better option.
Yeah. What is the goal? You just mentioned goal.
Total complete domination.
Yeah.
World domination.
Big time.
But like in a friendly way, we bring everybody up, but also
Friendly domination with the boys.
There you go. So yeah, Jonah, really quick, what other stuff have you recorded? Because I mean, now you're building up a roster with your own band, but I'm just kind of curious of where your recording sense came from. As you started.
Well, I work doing live sound and track like live bands a lot, but I tracked another Shadow Cult.
Shadow Cult's really good.
That was just one I thought of. But yeah, Marty, no, like we just have the jam hall that we practice at with like 15 different rooms, and there's like a combination of like 20 people or so that are like mixed between different bands who keep switching and making new bands. So then I basically just like pull most of my stuff from like people in the jam hall, just like doing local records, like for Raider, Cathartic Demise, APOC, and then Shadow Call, a lot of live band recordings. I did the drums for the new Razor record that just came out.
Yeah, you're doing live sound. He just came back from Australia from doing live sound with Protest the Hero and Pliny, and like that's insane. Like Jonah's amazing. It's sick.
Damn. Well, that's fucking rad. What's your go-to setup for or maybe not go-to setup? How did you record drums for this album? Like what sort of miking setups are you using, or mics, or is there something that you think is your particular flavor for the album?
Well, on this one, we actually did a full drum kit, but then we ended up using like an electronic kick pad. So instead of using an acoustic drum with triggers, like I just straight up used like a kick pad to like get rid of having the toms all ringing out together while the double kick's just running, and having to like go through cleaning up the kick drum. Like, people in studios and they got like big blankets over them, and they're, doing different miking things to like try and get something out of a kick drum, but then also reduce it to the rest of the kit. So that was one of the major things that kind of was different than that, we just played full takes, just kind of standard setup of mics, like 57 on the snare and overhead, room mic, like what did I have? 421 on the floor tom, like the Sennheisers on the toms, kind of, you know, close miking as much of the cymbals as I can to get like articulation on the bells and hats, 2 sets of hats, and so pretty like pretty standard, I'd say. Another thing that I did is sample out the drums, like so I was able to like clean up a lot of the actual like performance just by like sampling the snare and then like re-triggering a lot of the recording like with the actual snare sample from the room. So there's maybe 50-50 like snare sample of the real snare he's using like added back on top for like consistency and stuff like that.
I think that's the way to go now. I mean, that's just like kind of more the modern sound. It's to keep up with I don't know, keeping people listening, unless you're going for people are only listening to like lo-fi like stuff particularly. But I think having that sample, you can really create what the hell you want and get exactly the tone you want out of a drum.
Yeah.
Or the kick drum sample that's on the record is a sample, but it was created off of his drum kit. So it's still just like a mic thrown in there. It's just when we tracked, there was no kick drum, so that it didn't sound all like just a crazy amount of bleed. So
yeah, that makes sense. That's rad though. There we go. So I guess this has been really fucking awesome. But let's open up the floor for you guys. Let's talk about what you're doing, what's happening next, shows coming up, what you want to let the people know.
Yeah, so coming up, we've got 5 shows opening up for the Heathen tour. There's North America. We're doing Providence, Rhode Island, Brooklyn, Montreal, Toronto, and Detroit. And then March 31st, the album Crimes and Torment comes out. We actually have a song coming out February 24th, so just less than a week away. We have a new single coming out. Which we're looking forward to putting that out there. So I'll be out on the road with Heathen for March and April. So I'm hoping that this summer we can do some Invicta touring.
Yeah, I'll see you when you guys come to Brooklyn.
Sweet.
Gonna be it's always fun. I'm going to St. Vitus tonight, seeing the Obsessed and all those guys tonight. Cool. Yeah. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys. And anything else you want to say to the fans? Any last words?
Thanks for being sick.
Yeah, keep checking out the new album. Thanks for all the support from everybody, because it's been great. A lot of people been checking it out. It's great.
Yeah, that's great. You guys sound awesome. So yeah, well, I'll see you guys soon. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for doing this.
Cheers. Oh, thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Later.
Yeah, see ya.